The following tale is plucked from the pages of a nameless tome, a manuscript whispered of in hushed tones by those who dare tread too close to the edge of sanity. It is said that merely speaking of the events you are about to hear invites danger beyond reckoning. For these are the deeds and misdeeds of souls whose fates were sealed the moment they crossed into shadowed realms where darkness reigns eternal. Be warned, listener, do not repeat what you hear to others. Do not commit these words to memory, nor linger on the images conjured within your mind. To do so is to risk incurring the wrath of, well, perhaps it is best if I leave the name unspoken. Even now, it claws at the corners of my mind. Know this, should you choose to continue, you do so at your own peril. And remember, you have been warned. This is a tale called 3 Days to Die, a Sinister Legend. The bustling college campus teemed with life. The sun bathed the stone paths in golden light, and students moved in packs, their voices blending into a dull, lively hum. Yet amid this crowd, 3 individuals, Michelle, Annie, and Ricardo, found their steps slowing, their skin crawling with inexplicable dread. Each saw him that same day in different parts of the campus. Ricardo was the first. Standing across the quad, near a cluster of trees, was a man in a crimson suit, a black button-up shirt, and a red bow tie. His hands were gloved, and his head was concealed beneath an eyeless burlap sack. In the left hand, the man held a silver saucer with a perfect slice of white cake, pink icing glistening in the sunlight. Ricardo's throat tightened. He blinked, hoping the figure was a trick of the light. But Mr. Rickett didn't move, only tilting his head as if listening to a song only he could hear. Like everyone else of his generation, Ricardo had heard of the urban legend. Have your cake and eat it too. That was how it always started. And he also knew how the legend was always said to end. Hours later, Annie saw him, too. As she crossed the courtyard carrying an armful of textbooks, her gaze fell on the figure, dressed the same, with the burlap sack draped over his head. She stopped dead in her tracks. He was standing next to a lamppost, unmoving, the cake balanced delicately on the silver saucer. Her heart skipped a beat. The stories were real. Mr. Rickett was real. And she knew what that meant. Later that evening, Michelle spotted him from a library window. Mr. Rickett stood just beyond the glass, his eyeless face turned toward her. The cake, untouched, sat as always on the saucer. In her panic, she knocked over a chair, drawing stares from other students, but when she turned back toward the window, he was gone. Each of them had seen him. And by the time night fell, they somehow knew, whether through whispers in the halls, desperate texts, or sheer intuition, that they were all marked. 3 strangers, brought together by one common, terrible fate. And time was running out. Ricardo became the first to succumb to terror. He shut himself in his dorm room, paranoid and frantic. Every creak of the floorboards made his heart race. His online searches yielded nothing but grim accounts of people who had seen Mr. Rickett and were never seen again. By the second night, exhaustion overtook him no matter how much coffee was consumed. He dozed off at his desk, until the soft creak of his door jarred him awake. He turned slowly, dread washing over him. Standing in the corner, with his signature silver saucer and cake, was Mr. Rickett. The eyeless burlap sack tilted toward Ricardo as if watching. Ricardo's breath caught in his throat. He scrambled to his feet, knocking over a chair in his panic. His body screamed for him to run, but fear paralyzed him. And then Mr. Rickett rushed forward. The claws, as unyielding as a bear's trap, sliced through flesh with terrifying ease. Ricardo's scream was brief, gurgled, as blood spilled freely across the floor. His roommate found his lifeless body the following morning, contorted in terror, a grotesque grin frozen on his face. Beside him, the silver saucer sat undisturbed, the cake now missing a single bite. Annie had tried to outrun her fate. The news of Ricardo's death only fueled her fear, and by morning, she was on the road, desperate to get away from campus, from town, anywhere Mr. Rickett couldn't find her. But escape was impossible. Her car sputtered to a halt on a deserted stretch of highway, the gas tank drained. Panic welled in her chest. She fumbled with her phone, but there was no signal. Then, in the rearview mirror, she saw him, Mr. Rickett, standing just a few feet away, his burlap-covered head tilted, the silver saucer perfectly balanced in his hand. "No," she whimpered. She bolted from the car, sprinting into the woods. Branches clawed at her skin, and roots tangled around her feet, but she pushed on, driven by raw terror. Behind her, that soft, tuneless hum followed, relentless and eerie. She stumbled. Mr. Rickett was already there, waiting. His eyeless sack tilted downward as he leaned closer. A crackling sound gradually grew from beneath the burlap, a noise reminiscent of pork fat frying in a well-oiled iron skillet. Annie's scream echoed through the forest, but it was cut short by a violent slash of claws at the end of a gnarled, leathery arm that materialized from Mr. Rickett's back. Her lifeless body crumpled onto the forest floor. The saucer rested beside her, the cake intact, except for one missing bite. Michelle knew she was the last one. It was a heavy impression laid upon her mind, along with the names of the two victims. Ricardo was gone. Annie was gone. She understood their fate. She had seen Mr. Rickett, too, and the stories were clear, no one survived after seeing him. The only place she thought she could be safe was the police station. Surrounded by officers, she told herself Mr. Rickett wouldn't dare appear. And, all she had to do was hold out for a few more hours to get past the 3-day rule. She burst into the station, breathless. "Please, I need help," she gasped, her voice shaking. I want to speak to someone." The front desk clerk looked up from her paperwork, raising an eyebrow. "Okay, ma'am. I'll call someone up to be with you in a moment. Just have a seat." Michelle sat down in the lobby waiting area, her hands trembling. Minutes felt like hours. Then, a man in uniform appeared, a young officer with a clipboard and a friendly smile. "Hi there," he said warmly. "I'm Officer Daniels. Follow me. We'll get you sorted out." Relieved, Michelle followed him down a dim hallway to a small office. Michelle sat across from Officer Daniels, her nerves still on edge. She tried to explain everything about Mr. Rickett, though it sounded crazy even to her. Once or twice, the officer's brow would crease, but he smiled reassuringly throughout the rambling flood of words. "You're safe now," he told her gently. For a moment, Michelle felt a flicker of hope. Then she noticed something strange. Daniel's smile never wavered. Although his brow furrowed, his eyes never blinked. A chill crawled down her spine. "Wait," she whispered, beginning to catch a whiff of something sugary in her nostrils. Daniel's form flickered, and his face twisted into something grotesque and inhuman. In his place stood Mr. Rickett, holding the silver saucer with its cursed cake. "No, this can't be real," Michelle backed away, her voice trembling with terror. It can't be." Mr. Rickett stepped closer, and with a swift motion, the grotesque third arm sprouted from the back. Razored claws ripped Michelle's chest to shreds. In the police station's lobby, an officer approached the desk. "Hey, Lisa. Where's that young lady you called me to talk to?" The desk clerk looked up from the binder she had been studying and glanced toward the hallway. "Oh. She got up a little while ago. I think she was heading toward the bathroom down the hall. She should be back in." A piercing scream echoed from the back of the station. Lisa and the officer tensed. The desk clerk frowned, craning her neck toward the hallway. "What the hell was that?" The officer, already moving, muttered, "I'll go check it out." Lisa remained at her post, drumming her fingers anxiously on the desk. Alone, she sniffed the air. "Something smells delicious." She turned toward the front entrance, her gaze sliding through the double glass doors and landing on the figure standing in the parking lot beyond the hedged lawn. There, under the street lamp, stood an unusual figure wearing a crimson suit, a burlap sack, and holding a silver saucer in one black-gloved hand. The desk clerk squinted, trying to make out what was on the saucer. Pink icing gleamed under the streetlight. "Is that a slice of cake?" Lisa pursed her lips and rose slightly from her comfy chair, a creeping sense of unease settling into the pit of her stomach. Something wasn't right. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this tale. I truly hope you enjoyed the story and felt fully immersed in its world. If you did, please hit that like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future stories filled with adventure, suspense, and mystery. And if you want more thrilling tales right now, click the video link at the top of your screen. The shadows hold many more tales. Don't miss the next one, subscribe and join me for the next dark adventure.